Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching World Today. Now, Trump's tariff war has escalated with China now slapping retaliatory tariff on the United States of America. This comes just a day after Trump imposed an additional 50% tariff on China, taking the total tariff hike to 104%, with the White House saying that the additional tariff will be effective from today. China vowed to fight to the end in an escalating trade war with the US after it announced retaliatory tariffs on American goods to the tune of 84% starting today. China's move to further up the tariff is indicative of its vow to fight to the end against Trump tariffs. China had previously announced a retaliatory tariff of 34% on American goods. European Union now also has officially adopted retaliatory tariffs on 21 billion euros worth of American goods after Trump's 25% duties on EU steel and aluminium exports. Canada has already announced imposition of a 25% tariff on certain US auto imports from Wednesday, retaliating against US President Donald Trump's levies on autos and parts imported into his country. Trump imposed a 104% tariff on China. Trump's move was in response to China's earlier retaliation to his reciprocal tariffs. Trump had also said that China cannot afford to impose high tariff. He had written on his Truth social network saying China had played it wrong and that they had panicked.
This is bigger than any deal. You guys, some of you work for companies. Your companies are peanuts. I don't care how big they are. Compared, this is the largest transaction in the history of our country. And don't let some of these politicians go around saying, because I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. I'll do anything, sir. And then I'll see some rebel Republican, some guy that wants to grandstand, say, I think that Congress should take over negotiations. Let me tell you, you don't negotiate like I negotiate. Congress takes over negotiating. Sell America fast because you're going to go busted.
The US continues to impose excessive tariffs and exert extreme pressure on China. China firmly opposes and will never accept such hegemonic and bullying behavior.
These tariffs come first and foremost at immense costs for US consumers and businesses, but at the same time they have a massive impact on the global economy. Especially hard hit are the developing countries. And this is a major turning point for the United States. Nonetheless, we stand ready to negotiate with the United States. Indeed, we have offered 0 for 0 tariffs for industrial goods, as we have successfully done with many other trading partners, because Europe is always ready for a good deal, so we keep it on the table. But we are also prepared to respond through countermeasures and defend our interests.
Yes, the probability of a recession in the United States has gone up significantly. I take no joy in that it becoming more likely. That will have significant effects on the Canadian economy. It's very hard for us to avoid that.
Joining me from New York now is Peter Cardillo. He is Chief Market Economist, Spartan Capital Securities. Peter, thank you so much for joining us here on the network. Now, Donald Trump has followed through on his threat of additional 50% tariffs on China. This will take America's new tariff on China to an unprecedented 104%. And now China has hit back with 84% retaliatory tariff on US goods. Things seem to be escalating every day. How do you see it play out when it comes to the United States of America?
Well, I think, obviously the trade war with China is accelerating. And of course, China this morning imposed 84% in retaliation to what the U.S. did just the other day. So these are signs that the trade war is accelerating between China. And at one point or another, someone is going to have to blink, whether it be the United States, whether it be China. And I think that probably holds water for the rest of our trading partners. The damage that's been caused in the financial markets point to a global recession. I think just from a psychological viewpoint, that's going to be hard to correct. So eventually there will be an accord. The question is, who blinks first? And of course, if you go back tit for tat, that means that someone eventually is going to give in. However, there is one concern that I have, and if you look what's happening in the currency markets this morning, you'll see that the dollar is under severe pressure against major currencies, with the exception of the Chinese yuan. That indicates to me that the next move by China could very well be a currency war. And I think at that point, if that were to happen, that would probably change the cards, and some sort of an accord might be forthcoming. So I think it's a matter of time. Of course, I repeat, the psychological damage that's been done in the marketplaces obviously points to recession. And so it's a question of now avoiding a steep recession. And I think the quicker the trade war ends, the better the prospects for a mild recession increase.
Right. So, Peter, you are very strongly suggesting that a recession is almost inevitable, and the psychological impact of last few days now, I think, can be seen on world markets and the economy as well.
Yes, and I say that because, in a few days, we're going to begin with earnings. And judging from what most CEOs have been basically communicating to the market, the guidance is not going to be that great. It's going to be very guarded. No CEO is going to paint a rosy picture. And so that tells me that CAPEX and other investments have already been scaled back, even though, there's no in anticipation of this trade war. So even if the trade war, let's say, lasts for another month or perhaps 2 months, it'd be very difficult to turn that around. Meaning that first quarter GDP growth here in the States is likely to be closer to zero, and followed by the same amount in the second quarter, which would put you in a technical recession.
Right. Peter Cardillo, thank you so much for joining us. It seems like things are looking quite grim when it comes to the markets and the global economy. Markets across the world have been reeling from Trump's tariff war. Asian markets sank again on Wednesday, while American markets trade higher in early trading on Wednesday, led by the Nasdaq. President Trump encouraged people to stay cool in his social media post, saying that this is a great time to buy. While the RBI's 25 basis point rate cut is the headline, there's a lot more that this policy spells out, from concerns over global trade tensions and tariffs to the outlook on India's growth. The central bank has taken stock of multiple moving parts. Here's what top economists make of the RBI's broader message.
Indranil, let me come to you and ask you to explain to our viewers the other elements of the MPC decision that seem to have responded to the emerging global and therefore the domestic growth scenario, as well as some specific measures, including, for example, incentives for exporters.
Well, I think the broad understanding is that inflation is aligning lower. And yes, there could be some surprises in terms of the currency as well as maybe supply shocks. that could emerge out of the trade war. But overall, the whole sense is that we are in a situation where global growth is tending to tank lower. There is a 104% tariff now on China, which means that China's determination in terms of sort of pushing global growth higher is also getting muted, which necessarily means that the crude oil prices and the overall commodity space is much weaker than was being anticipated. So those are the positives for inflation, which the RBI is taking into consideration along with the domestic factors of the agriculture sort of being on a positive side. On the growth front, yes, it expects the recovery to happen. But the worry comes from the fact that because of the global sort of happenings and how it unravels, the growth pickup may be less than what otherwise would have been. And therefore, it needs policy support, possibly also to the extent that the fiscal support may not be something which can be front-loaded and may be seen, if sort of necessary later, more proactive than reactive, which necessarily means, once again, that the monetary policy has to lead from the front. So that I think is the broad understanding and the sense that the governor wanted to highlight in this monetary policy.
Siddharth, the question that I have for you is the RBI underestimating the growth hit? Because we are yet to hear from the government in a major way. The government is pretty calibrated in its response to the tariffs because there is a full-fledged negotiation underway with the United States. But is the RBI underestimating the likely hit?
Well, the tariff war is it's still very, very early days, and it's still changing every day, if not every hour. So we don't exactly know the current situation. Some of these tariffs may actually get rolled back over the period of the next few months. There might be some more retaliatory tariff from some of the countries, and the risks are very diverse and diverse across both the spectrum. So we just don't know the scenario at this moment. But if it goes for the not so favorable scenario, at this moment, what we are talking about is possibly more about the first round or the direct impact. And in a situation of some kind of global financial turmoil, we have seen earlier the second round impacts can potentially be slightly more harsh than the direct and the first round impact, which we all economists tend to measure in the beginning with our Excel sheets. So that we have to figure out that over the course of the next few weeks and next few months, what is the direction this particular conversation across international borders are taking place? And I think the answer lies there. So very early days, we know very little about it.
Indranil, the point that the governor made, that the change in stance from neutral to accommodative means in the absence of shocks, MPC will only consider status quo or rate cuts. What is the point that the governor is trying to drive home?
I think, as I have even sort of alluded to earlier, I think the clear message is that with inflation having come down, remember we had been struggling with inflation for quite some time, and the previous governor had kept rates unchanged at around, say, about a 24-month period. And still we were sort of struggling to get inflation down. Now, with inflation being on the lower side, the room clearly opens up to support growth. And hence, the rate hike story is possibly out of the window, simply because one of the major reasons why inflation has come down is because of the vegetable prices and therefore the whole food space. He talks about how cereals production is better, Rabi is doing better, Kharif crops have come in. Pulses has also, as per the second estimate, pulses production in India is better than the last year. And all goes to say that food inflation is not a challenge. Now, in an atmosphere where demand is relatively on the weaker side domestically, it is very difficult to also see that core inflation will be a challenge. And I think in one of the sentences, he did mention that one reason for the uptick in core is because of the higher gold prices, which is something which is beyond the ambit of the monetary policy and hence provides the adequate comfort for us looking only at a cut at this point in time. And when we reach that limit, we don't actually get into a hiking cycle sooner than being anticipated.
In the ongoing trade war between the US and China, Beijing has taken firm countermeasures. China has banned export of dual-use items to 12 US firms over security concerns. And these measures will come into effect from 12:01 p.m. Thursday. Meanwhile, China has also released a white paper to clarify about China-US economic and trade relations. In the middle of this ongoing trade war, Panama Canal is another spark. U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth on Tuesday said that he believes Panama Canal faces ongoing threats from China, but that together the United States of America and Panama will keep it secure. China replied sternly to the U.S. Defense Secretary's statement. Chinese Foreign Ministry on Wednesday urged the U.S. to stop spreading rumors about China.
We know that in reality or in perception, the Communist Chinese have had designs on more control of this canal. That we say not on our watch. We will grow our partnership even more to ensure that the commitment America made to this canal 100 years ago is fulfilled through the partnership we have today.
China urges the US to stop spreading rumors and making trouble, and to stop maliciously linking China to the canal issue as an excuse to control the canal. I also want to emphasize that compromise and concession will not bring sovereignty and respect, but will only embolden the bully.
US President Donald Trump's closest allies are at war. On one side, you have Elon Musk, the tech billionaire who is not very pleased with the sweeping tariffs. On the other, Pete Navarro, Trump's trade enforcer. And the White House is not doing much to ease tensions. So is this just ego-driven drama or a sign of deeper fissures inside Trump's inner circle? That's our next report.
The US president's two most trusted people in office do not see eye to eye on Trump's tariffs. On one side, we have Elon Musk, and on the other, Trump's trade advisor, Peter Navarro. The two men, both close to Trump, are sparring very publicly over the president's sweeping new tariffs. The feud started when Navarro criticized Musk's push for zero tariffs between the US and Europe. Navarro, the architect of Trump's trade war, accused Tesla of being just a car assembler dependent on foreign parts. And the Tesla boss hit back hard, calling Navarro dumber than a sack of bricks. However, the White House did little to de-escalate the feud that has gone public. During a press briefing on April 8, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called it a classic case of boys will be boys.
Look, these are obviously two individuals who have very different views on trade and on tariffs. Boys will be boys, and we will let their public sparring continue. And you guys should all be very grateful that we have the most transparent administration in history.
Leavitt even expressed that the White House is open to differing views. Her response raised eyebrows, especially as Musk remains one of Trump's most influential outside voices. This feud comes on the heels of a sweeping 104% tariff on Chinese imports. The White House says this feud shows how transparent the Trump administration is. But critics believe this is as chaotic as a Trump team can be. With Rudrashish Kanjilal, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
So, if you look at that.
Well, it's not just Donald Trump. By now, we all know that when Elon Musk tweets, trolls, or just talks, the internet listens and then explodes. From sparring with politicians to throwing shade at competitors, it's never a dull stroll when Musk is online. So what are the viral Musk moments of the day? Let's take a look.
First Next up, Musk abruptly ended a gaming live stream in an apparent rage quit. This came after the game's chat function was overwhelmed with trolls. They accuse Musk of running the country and having no real friends. Next up, Musk has reacted to the resurrection of dire wolves. The Tesla boss shared a post on X of the cubs sleeping and added his desire to have a miniature version as his pet. And lastly, a video of Musk's 4-year-old son, Lil X, with Donald Trump has gone viral. In the clip, Lil X could be seen accompanying Donald Trump as they walked to board a chopper. Netizens did not let this go unnoticed, as many mocked the sitting US president of turning into a babysitter for Musk.
Big win for India. 2611 terror mastermind Tariff Rana extradition from the United States is underway as we speak. The mastermind behind the 2611 Mumbai attacks, who was serving a 14-year sentence in a Los Angeles jail, is now on a plane to India and is expected to land tomorrow morning or afternoon after exhausting all his legal options in the US against his extradition. He will be accompanied by multi-agency India teams. India Today accessed an inside scoop into the extradition. 2 jails, one in Delhi and one in Mumbai, are being prepared to house the terrorist. And the entire operation has been monitored by none other than the National Security Advisor himself, the Home Ministry and the NIA. Sources tell India Today that Tariff Rana is being flown to India in a special plane and will be presented before an NIA court for custody tomorrow. The plane will then make a stop at an undisclosed location en route. The operation is being closely monitored by National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Tariff Rana is accused of masterminding the 2611 Mumbai attacks. He faces charges including attempting to wage war against the Indian government, along with charges of murder, forgery and criminal conspiracy.
Very, very, very positive development. One, for justice in India of those who were killed on that horrific days. And second, it's a very good step, I think, in cooperation between America and India in terms of criminal elements, with transnational crime, terrorism. So it's a very good indication of the growing cooperation between the two countries on that. But first and foremost, it's that justice coming back, and with this, India will learn many things by interrogation of this gentleman.
Tariff Rana is being extradited. He's coming to India.
Anybody who causes harm to India and is brought to justice by process of law, it would be a welcome move, provided it happens.
देखिए, बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि है। नरेंद्र मोदी जी की कूटनीति की बहुत बड़ी जीत है कि 26/11 हमले का मास्टरमाइंड तरिफ राणा को यहाँ लाया जा रहा है। अजमल अमर कसाब को तो फांसी पर चढ़ाया गया, लेकिन पूरी रेकी करने वाला ये तरिफ राणा अब भारत की सरजमी पर घसीट के लाया जा रहा है और इसका भी हिसाब किताब भारत में होगा।
And now let's just look at some other stories from across the world in World at a Glance. Russian forces staged massive drone attacks on the Ukrainian cities of Dnipro, Kharkiv and Kramatorsk late on Tuesday, triggering fires and injuring at least 17 people. The Ukrainian Air Force said Russia launched 55 drones during its overnight attack. According to a statement on Telegram, the Air Force shot down 32 drones and another 8 did not reach their targets, likely due to electronic warfare countermeasures. It did not specify what happened to the remaining 15 drones. Chinese President Xi Jinping called for building a community with a shared future with neighboring countries and striving to open new ground for China's neighborhood work. Xi, also General Secretary of the Communist Party of China Central Committee and Chairman of the Central Military Commission, made the remarks at a central conference on work related to neighboring countries, which was held in Beijing. India and France to seal a deal soon for the procurement of 26 Rafale marine fighter aircraft. The deal is estimated to be worth over rupees 63,000 crores. As per sources, the Indian Navy will receive 22 single-seater jets along with 4 twin-seater variants and a comprehensive package for fleet maintenance, logistical support, personnel training and indigenous manufacturing components under offset obligations.